stack those possibly. So you potentially could be looking at up to 25 years in prison. Mr. Musgrove, you want to come up to the podium, please. This is in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Brian Joseph Musgrove, file number 23-21461FH. I have Isaac Sneed appearing on behalf of the people, and I have Michael Dagger-Margosian appearing on behalf of Mr. Musgrove. Mr. Dagger-Margosian might, oh, there he is. So Mr. Dagger-Margosian, this is a date and time set for pre-trial in this matter. Mr. Musgrove said that he was appearing on his own behalf. I did verify he is not an attorney, and you are still the attorney of record. So Mr. Dagger-Margosian, how do you wish to proceed?
Well, Your Honor, I am aware that Mr. Musgrove wants to present information to the court. I'm happy to be standby counsel if he wants to represent himself. Obviously, this court would have to go through the colloquy of that. But
this courtroom scene starts with a simple question, but quickly turns into something much bigger. A defendant facing serious charges, up to 25 years in prison, steps forward and decides he wants to represent himself. Now, that's already a risky move. But what makes it worse is how he plans to defend himself. Instead of focusing on the actual charges, he starts going down the familiar sovereign citizen path, talking about private courts, all caps names, and questioning jurisdiction. And the judge? She shuts it down instantly. No hesitation, no confusion, just a direct response. That's not valid. That's not law. And that moment right there sets the tone for everything that follows. Because unlike some courtrooms where these arguments drag on, this judge doesn't entertain it for even a second. The defendant tries to push back, claiming the Supreme Court supports his position, bringing up theories about minor status and legal identity. But again, immediately rejected, not debated, not discussed, rejected. And then the judge does something important. She brings the focus back to reality. She points to his actual lawyer, an experienced public defender, someone trained, knowledgeable, and capable of actually helping him. And she makes it clear, you might not like the advice, but it's good advice. Because here's the truth, this isn't a debate about internet theories. This is a criminal case, with real consequences. And while the defendant is busy arguing about technicalities that don't exist, the clock is ticking on a case that could cost him decades of his life. Then comes another key moment. The defendant claims everyone in the courtroom has a financial interest in his case. And the judge responds with pure logic. She gets paid the same no matter what happens. Win, lose, or dismiss, it doesn't change anything for her, which flips the entire argument on its head. Because the only person truly affected by the outcome is the defendant himself. And that's the reality he keeps avoiding. By the end of this exchange, one thing is crystal clear. This isn't about rights. It's not about hidden legal loopholes. It's about misunderstanding the system completely. And when you walk into a courtroom with beliefs that don't match reality, the outcome is almost always the same. Not freedom, but consequences.
Of that, but obviously it's Mr. Musgrove's legal right to at least ask the court to do that. So I'm here to observe at this point.
All right. So, Mr. Musgrove, when you were at the bench or up at the podium before, you said that you were appearing on behalf of yourself. So, Mr. Musgrove, are you asking to no longer have counsel represent you?
Well, what I'm understanding is that the courts is a private for-profit.
So, Mr. Musgrove, I know where you're going with this, and none of that is valid. None of that is law.
I'm not the all caps name. Of course,
none of that is valid. None of that is law. You are standing in my.
I tried to file paperwork with the clerk's office ahead of time so that you would have time to review it, and they denied me.
I know what you're talking about. None of that is valid under the law of the state of Michigan or the Constitution of the United States of America.
What do you mean it is?
No.
The Supreme Court says it is.
What does it say it is?
The Supreme Court says that if we were at the age of 18, we were supposed to claim our minor status.
Nope, not valid.
Okay.
So here's what I would say to you. Mr. Dagger Markosian is, like most of our public defenders, exceptional attorneys and very well versed in the law and very experienced. He gives legal advice. You may not like the legal advice, but it's usually good advice. I've never had anyone from the public defender's office not wholeheartedly try to represent their clients. So what you are talking about is not valid, and it is not going to get you out of this case. You're not going to be able to say all those things because it's not valid.
Everyone involved in this court case has a financial interest in the case.
I don't have a financial interest in your case. I get paid by the state of Michigan whether you
As the hearing continues, the reality of the situation becomes impossible to ignore. The judge makes something very clear. This isn't about theories or beliefs. This is about a real crime with a real victim. And in this case, the victim is a company. The defendant is facing embezzlement charges, nearly $70,000 worth of tools and equipment allegedly taken. That alone carries up to 15 years in prison. But it doesn't stop there. There's also a second charge, using a computer to commit that crime. Another 10 years. And when you combine those, he could be looking at 25 years behind bars. That's not a debate. That's reality. But instead of focusing on that, the defendant goes back to the same argument. How can I face my accuser if it's a company? And once again, the judge shuts it down. Because in the legal system, a business can absolutely be represented in court. It's treated as a legal entity, which means it can have a voice through its representatives. That's how the system works. But the defendant still doesn't accept it. He insists he's not a corporation, he's a living person. And that's when the judge delivers one of the most brutal and honest lines of the entire hearing. You are a living person. That's why you're standing in front of me. Simple, direct, undeniable. At this point, the gap between belief and reality couldn't be clearer. The judge even reminds him, everyone in that courtroom went through years of legal training. They understand the law. He doesn't. And that difference? It matters. A lot. Because this isn't just about being right. It's about knowing how the system actually works. And finally, after all the arguments, all the resistance, all the back and forth, the confidence starts to crack. For the first time, the defendant hesitates. He asks for time to think. And that moment says everything. Because when the consequences become real, when decades in prison are on the table, suddenly, those theories don't feel so certain anymore. And just like that, the hearing ends. But the bigger story? It's just getting started. Because in the courtroom, belief doesn't decide your future. Understanding does.
Whether you plead, whether it gets dismissed, we have budgets. The court system is not a profit-generating revenue. We are here to represent people so that people who are charged with crimes are protected, people who are victims of crimes are protected, and that's why we have all
in
these.
order for there to be a crime, there has to be a victim. There is no.
Well, there is a victim in this case.
The victim would be the company.
You are charged.
I can't face.
Actually, just hold on. So your crime that you are charged with, which you are innocent as of this time, let me grab the right file, is failure. Oh, this is let me see. This is an embezzlement charge. So you are charged in count one with embezzlement 50,000 or more, but less than 100,000. That being an agent, servant, or employee of Hardwoods of Michigan Industries did convert to your own use without the consent of your employer or principal, industrial tools and equipment in the amount of $68,938.40 or money or equipment. And that's a 15-year felony. So if you are found guilty by a jury, you can go to prison for a computer to commit a crime, to facilitate the charge in count one. That carries a maximum penalty of up to 10 years in prison. And the way the statute's set up, I can actually stack those possibly. So you potentially could be looking at up to 25 years in prison. So the victim that's alleged in this would be that business.
Right, and I can't face that accuser because that business can't get on the stand for me to ask questions, and a third party.
But their
can't stand
representative
it.
can. Yes, they can. Yes, they can. Thousand of student loan debt that was forgiven to be a lawyer. You do not. And Mr. Dagger Margosian, Mr. Isaac Sneed, all of the attorneys here went to law school to know the law, and their job is to advise you of the law. So
Yeah,
yes, they can. Yes,
They're
you
going
can be
by
charged.
everything, all the
can't-
laws and statutes that you guys go by
Are
for
legal.
corporations. They're for
Still a crime. Still a crime.
But I'm not
Still a
a business
crime.
corporation. I'm a living person.
Yep, and that's why you're
Okay.
standing in front of me. If you were dead, the case would be dismissed.
Yeah, the all caps name is that.
That means nothing. That's not valid. It's
Okay.
not legal.
right.
So do you want to represent yourself or do you want to have an attorney to represent you?
I need some time to think.
Okay, so I'm gonna set this for another pre-trial on March 20th at 8:30 in the morning. And Miss Adams, could I get a notice of